Seeking the Truth. On today's show, all the way from Australia. Well, actually, he's staying in Australia for the show, but it's Barry. You'll remember we touched base before I flew to Australia last November. In fact, I think we did a follow-up show afterwards, didn't we, Barry? So over to you. I'm now really concerned and interested even more about the birth certificate situation, because I've got lots of mums and dads whose children have been removed from them by the state. And there's lots of rumours going around about how much money this can generate the councils. So welcome, Barry. Over to you.
Hi, Caroline. Nice to see you again. Keep in touch and watch a lot of your shows. Yes, well, for the people over there watching, it's now 12 o'clock at night and it's been a very long day. Although it's Saturday, I've been helping people and I've been typing up rubbish. Well, it's rubbish, it's fiction. But anyhow, as far as the birth certificate is concerned, it all goes back to Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, where when anything you register belongs to the government. And of course, the birth certificate, it goes off from Britain or Ireland, wherever the case may be, or Australia, goes off to Washington, D.C., and they set up a trust in your name. So all your hospital bills and everything is done out of that. When you borrow $500,000 from the bank, they take that out of your trust account, hold on to it for a little while, make some money on it, give it back to the trust account, and then the bank pretend to lend you some money. So your birth certificate follows you around all your life. So what they actually have done, they're registering this may sound rather bizarre, but they actually register the afterbirth, and the live person becomes a deceased estate at law. And there's lots of ways out of that. All maritime commercial law, which originally comes from France, way back in the 12th century from Aquitaine. Richard the Lionheart's mother, she was the one that introduced it into England to her husband, who was King Henry. This is all coming off the top of my head at 12 o'clock at night, Caroline. I hope you
Right, Barry, I'm going to stop you there because I'm going to do, I know it's going to be a short, sharp, fast blast, but for some of the mums and dads, this could blow their minds because it's certainly the concept, this fact, blew my mind for weeks afterwards. So my understanding is that when you were born, your parents are under some sort of restriction, time constraint about registering your birth within 28 days.
Yeah.
Now, that being the case, you at hospital actually take a blood sample from the pinprick, and this gets married along with your registration, and you could maybe give me the definition of what registration is about, but then effectively you become a corporation, and the number on your birth certificate fits with, it's basically traded on the stock exchange. And every time there is another number generated in your name or your corporation's name, that number is also bought and sold on the stock exchange. So when a child is taken into care, the birth certificate, I assume it's not important as to the whereabouts of the birth certificate. The council can still presumably buy and sell in some way. How does this work? Are they dipping into your fund? And this is another thing people don't quite comprehend always, and I found it really hard to understand why there is actually a fund in your name or your corporation's name in the first place.
Well, we live in the land of fiction, and maritime law is old fiction and it's old contract law. If you don't register your child, they take it off you. When you do register it, if you don't bash it and beat it up in the first 28 days, you get to keep it. And it's like your car, you're only the registered keeper, so anytime you upset them in any way, shape or form, they can come and take it away. There is a way out of that, and you may jump up and down when I say this, but you're very lucky in England. You have a international common law court already set up, and I've been checking it out, and you can actually register lawfully your children with them, and it doesn't go anywhere else other than stays in the UK. Now, there was a case I've seen on TV here where someone was overseas and they didn't register the child, and when they went to get a visa in that country to leave, they're told they couldn't have it. Well, then they registered the child in England in the Common Law Court, which is www.commonlawcourt.com, which is very easy to find, and I was lucky to find it. They went to them, they issued a certificate, the country of that country accepted it and gave them visas. So there is a way around, and the fact that people are waking up that they own nothing, they're all walking around talking to the dead. And a deceased, anybody who accepts they're a person at this day and age is a fool, because if you look up the dictionary, a person under common law, or sorry, in Google, it will say deceased estate. Anything whose corpse on it is dead. So it's very hard to get people to wake up, because we're responsible for what's happened at our time, because we ignored what was happening. And now we're trying to tell the people who are in the same position we were 20, 30 years ago to wake up. You are not a person. You do not have to contract with these morons. There's ways out of it. The whole place is nothing more than fiction. And if you want to play with the tooth fairy, you believe that up until a certain age. You want to start pulling your teeth out now, you wouldn't put them under your pillow. You'd probably get a set of false teeth and a happy holiday or something.
Right. So are you aware that we've got 75,000 children in the UK that live in basically with foster carers, foster homes, and social workers allegedly are on a bonus scheme to remove children, depending, I think a lot of it depends on which county area you live in, as to how keen they are on bringing the children into the state, which is what we have actually done in the first place by registering them with the state in the first place. So they presumably think they're taking back what they officially own.
Well, basically, when people go into prison, again, they take a bond out on that, and there's people making money on prisoners. That's why you get a lot of people coming into this country and who commit a lot of crime, and no crime, no business. I mean, look at the people who'll be out of business if crime stopped tomorrow, or the barristers, solicitors, and the fictitious courts, right? So basically, crime is an industry. So taking the children into care, a bond is created, and there's not the workers, they're lucky to get paid, but there's people at the top circulating that money in the trust accounts, making a lot of money. And, we're stepping on their toes, but don't worry, we know when to hold them, when to fold them, and when to run away, I hope.
So basically, this all fits with the New World Order agenda, because they want to, it goes back, hundreds of years now, the breakdown in the family unit. So this is, I guess this is a two-pronged attack, I should say. They're generating money for themselves, but secondly, to have a satanic religion, which is what we have now in the world, this is what the Pope is actually presiding over. And again, that is obviously very controversial or very, very new thinking for people who, go to church religiously on a Sunday and don't believe that the Pope or the Vatican has done anything wrong at all, despite the newspaper reports of all the paedophilia within various churches. It's not really, they don't equate that with going in through those doors every Sunday morning. Of course, Sunday is supposed to be not the day we're supposed to go to church. Whether we go to church or not, I'm not sure it's actually prescribed in the Bible, church per se, but we're supposed to do our big, our prayers, our major prayers are supposed to be on a Saturday.
Well, so each religion has a day, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday depends. And I think basically it's all controlled from the Vatican. But it goes back to the papal bull on the 5th of September 1666. That's not bad at the top of my head. What was the name?
Here are some results from a search.
My phone's talking to me. See, that's another thing.
Oh no, you've got
everything to say. Yeah, in 1666 in Pudding Lane in London, there was a fire to disguise the fact, or to cover up the fact they sat for 3 or 4 days and passed the Act of 1666, which is took away it was declared that the Vatican owned your soul, your property, and all men and women are dead, so they created the dead entities, right? And when people, I've asked law solicitors this question, possession is 9/10 of the law, what about the other one? And they go, well, that they own your title and they own your soul, and it's all the Vatican, the One World Corporation, and it's all going to end very shortly in a very big election in America. Somebody says the New Testament, the New Testament, the Third Testament, whatever it is, I'm not into this, but it's going to change very shortly, and all these people. Look, in Ireland, the politics have changed. Here in Australia now, they can't even form a government between the preferred parties. People still believe there's two preferred parties. It's rubbish. They're all fiction. They're all corporations, and we're corporations within that. And if you accept you're a dead entity, well, then you've got a problem. Get out of it. Stop registering your children. I know that's very hard to say, and I'll probably get a smack on the head from that from God or somebody else. But there is an alternative, and it's common law. And you've got to go back to common law and forget the fiction.
Have you actually managed to deregister yourself?
No, I can't be bothered. I formed my own identification. I've created, the surname is in brackets on my identification, which says that I am the principal on behalf of that surname. And that's it. I don't have, the surname is a dead entity, a corporation. So I can't see any reason the dead talking to the dead. You can still respect your family name as being the family, what do you call it? There is a name for the House of Joe and the House of Doe. But John Doe, if you answer to John Doe, it's all in capital letters, and then you're answering to the dead. So if you go into a court, and now we did this here recently, some guy, he put the flag on it, on the top of the paperwork, and said he will attend the court as the principal for the surname, which is a deceased corporation at law, and they could not handle it. They couldn't handle his case. Only a traffic offence, but that was it. They couldn't hear it. End of story. They just could not hear it, because by putting the British flag on the top, or the Australian flag, and the red one here is the ensign, you created jurisdiction. They can no longer deal with the living, and you have the International Court in England already set up. It's been going for nearly 3 years, and it's all the answers are in that www.commonlawcourt.com. Now, I'm not promoting them or anything like that, but it is the only way out of the predicament you've got now. And it's our predicament, it's an Irish predicament, it's an American predicament, and the Bar Association, the Vatican, and the One World Government have led us up the garden path. And as I said, the Tooth Fairy was a lie. Santa Claus was a lie. We actually were told it, but we've never been told the lie of fiction about our lives, and that we're actually, for persons, we're dead. Okay, Caroline, that's a long story.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is quite staggering, the fact that all these children are being removed from their families. They're basically, the children are interviewed initially without a parent being present. I mean, yes, there's obviously going to be some situations which are unpleasant at home. But equally so, in fact, more than equally so, we all make mistakes. We all have children that misunderstand, misinterpret, play up. They go through phases in their lives. And of course, we have a society where the vast majority of people now have both parents working.
Yeah, it's sad. And that's where we went wrong. That's exactly where we went wrong. My parents and your parents, when I was young, my wife never worked. They looked after the kids. And it's all part of conditioning, you know. I do watch Coronation Street. I've watched it since 1960, the very first episode, and I've watched it practically all the time ever since. And they had a case about one of the children being taken away in there. But I love Coronation Street, but these programs promote the One World Government theories about everything and vaccination and all this stuff. But the program itself covers a lot of valuable stuff, but it gives you an example of what children are being taken away. And there is a lot of violence. And the violence, I mean, when we were young, and I lived in England in the 60s and early 70s, everybody had a job. There was so much work around. You could have 3 jobs in one day. And when the government, with all their agreements, sent all that work away, they left people in the scrap heap. no pride, no hope. And of course, it creates poverty. Poverty creates friction, and everybody suffers, and it's all unnecessary, and it's all our fault at the time because we allowed it to happen. And the younger generation now is like we're deaf, dumb, and blind. There's not much point talking to us. If you can get through to them, fantastic. But they have to. We use the term "wake up." They're in a coma. I don't know how the heck, because it would have been very hard for me 20 years ago to be woken up, I suppose. And now that I am, it's a hell of a job trying to get somebody else to listen to reason. The birth certificate, it all starts with that. That's anything you register, they own, and they can do as you like with it, unless you challenge them through the law of the land and don't contract to these absolute criminal cabal of criminals. That's exactly what they are. They're just living off us and laughing at us. And if you have no rights if you don't know your rights. And get to know your rights. It's all on YouTube. There's a lot of idiotic stuff on there, but you put out pretty good stuff. There's a lot of other. I've got pretty good stuff, of course, as well. And if you don't like it, don't watch it. I mean, unless you educate yourself, relying on other people to help you, it's not going to happen. Bill Turner, everybody around the world knows Bill Turner. Well, he's got a great channel. He's on my channel. There's Kevin Arnott. I mean, people have to start learning for themselves, and you and I need to direct people to these channels and to help them. It's hard. It's very hard.
So, I mean, I know Kevin Arnott's channel, and I know that he's intent on setting up a grand jury for sex abuse next month.
Not a grand jury. No, a grand jury, it doesn't work anymore because a grand jury is 23 people, and you've got to go back into the fiction system, and they won't accept it. So the common law courts, which has been set up in England, use a 12-man jury. They convict them, and they get charged. The whole thing goes through, and it's starting to work. It is working, and we're setting up in the next 6 months.
I've not actually seen, I am aware of what you're talking about, but because I've not actually seen any justice actually being meted out at the end of the day, and there is also the worry under the present court system that occasionally judges just let the occasional case go through to keep people. These aren't major cases. You see what I'm saying? That's why I'm really reluctant to actually direct and say this is what we should be doing, because if it was that simple, I think we would have all been doing it 5 years ago. So I would just pop up. Do you know what I mean?
It is simple, Caroline. It's just it's too hard for us to do it and accept it. But we cannot keep going on the way we are, accepting all of this fiction. I mean, if you look at the syntax grammar aspect of it, that alone, it's fiction. You know, when somebody says you have been found guilty, or you have, if you do not pay something in 28 days, when they point at you, are they actually talking to Mr. John Young Yu living in China, or are they talking to the sheep out in the field who's a female you, or are they talking to who is you? So therefore, after that, you will pay. The next part of that line is fiction. It's just that's all it is. It's fiction. You can rebut it by the grammar alone. Ask them I received a correspondence today. It was addressed to you. Would you kindly explain who you is? And they can't. It's as simple as that. It is that simple.
I think what I see now is we have got real life examples where we can see the children being taken off their families. Naturally, the parents blame themselves. You know, if you lived in the Truman Show and you had a camera on you 24 hours a day, are you going to be able to say, hand on heart, you never said a cross word to one of your children? What are the parental responsibilities? They're supposed to look after the children and set a good example as best they can for them to go out into the big wide world. But everybody is going to they're going to have a crossword, and then when that child gets to a certain age and says, oh, mummy's hit me, or I want attention, I know there's lots of, I'm a qualified teacher, and for people who are only used to maybe having either no children, one child, two children, not really looking at other people's children because their job is in an office, they never see children. It's difficult for some people, or there may be a different generation where this sort of thing didn't really happen, children being taken off their parents.
There was discipline back there. Well, when it comes to our birth certificate, there is a thing in law, and that's in the fiction aspect of law, if you like. It's called a unilateral mistake. So at the time of registration, we were never given full disclosure. So therefore, under maritime law, that contract should cease and desist, because a unilateral mistakes, you were never given full disclosure. So that everything is contract in that law. So you could get out of your birth certificate if you really brought that up and knew how to fight it in their system, because they have not given you full disclosure in relation to your contract which the mother or the father signed when the child was at birth. That's a good one.
Cease and desist.
Yeah, because it's a unilateral mistake. You were not given a full disclosure. Same applies to your driving license. When you signed that driving license, you were 18 and you were all you wanted was that license to get out and drive. They never give you full disclosure. There again, another unilateral mistake, and that's in their system. So therefore, that is a void contract. It's ultra virus, repugnant. So
absolutely. I come from the finance industry, and you have to have all these pages of disclosure before you're supposed to sign a contract. It's the same thing. In fact, your equity fund is huge compared to some of the contracts that you sign for. So insurance, actually talking about driving, I don't know about in your neck of the woods, as they say, but certainly we now have new driving tests in the UK. They've been on the go for a few years now. They're much harder actually to get yourself qualified in passing your test. It takes people many times now to get through that test. And of course, we see in the media that we're going to be pulled. We're going to be forcibly removed from our petrol and our diesel cars, and even possibly hybrid cars as well. All to do with the environment, which is, we could make cars tomorrow which function on water, but that is never going to happen with the people we've got in charge. So they're trying to get us out and get us into electric cars, self-driven, automatic driving cars. The car drives themselves.
And full of radiation.
Well, yeah, you've got your battery cars now, haven't you, which are so bad on so many levels. And we're going
they're falling asleep as they're driving along the road. We've seen it on YouTube with the Teslas especially, and I'm not knocking Tesla, but the battery creates radiation. Radiation causes other problems. So why was 2 or 3 people on the freeway asleep, the driver and the passenger? And because they've got these autonomous cars and they're putting up the wiring here in Victoria, they hope to have it all done by 2022, and they're going to force our Labour Party, they're bad news, right? Same in England, and the Democrats. They're trying to get the cars off the road, and Victoria wants to be the first in Australia to get rid of cars. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I went up to Sovereign Hill with the goldfields, and they got one electric car charge, and there's about 100, probably 1,000 cars in the car park. It's yeah. It's crazy, and we're accepting all this because we're stupid. We're fools, and we have to stop accepting it, and we have to stop contracting with these people. They've never give us full disclosure on a lot of things, and we should go back and throw that in their face. So let's go and do it.
Well, we've got also a disadvantage in our country compared to Australia. You've got huge amount of land, whereas we've got people now who are moving into houses that have no driveway, no garage.
Well, that's the plan.
All of them don't have the street car parking because it's double yellow outside.
That's the plan. They're doing that here. They're building pigeon lofts. They've been, look, We've allowed them to do it. This is the annoying thing apart about it. We accept it, and I know I accepted all the contract when they got rid of the Queen out of Australia, made Australia an unlawful republic 33 years ago, and we've been trying to. Some of us have been fighting to get that fixed. In fact, some of the people are over at the Privy Council in England trying to do it now. But we've let it happen, and the people now are letting it happen. So just imagine our grandchildren's children. They'll be living in cages. They'll put the good people in jail and let the bad ones out, which is probably happening already.
Well, I just did a video recently called the Green New Deal. And it's basically the plan is now to banish cows from the planet. It's going to mean that for most of us, we'll have to spend £25,000, which is about 50,000 Aussie dollars, on refitting. It's called retrofit. Our houses. We've got to remove our gas ovens.
Yeah. Oh my God! But you don't have to. You see, you don't have to contract them. You can challenge them. England grew up in common law. It's the origins of common law. Well, it all goes back to the Ten Commandments. But Britain was a common law country, and we've allowed them the law of the land. The sea to come in. Maritime commercial law has taken over everything. And we're allowing it to happen. We don't have to allow it to happen. Anything that an act is fiction. Anything that starts with a vowel, you're a teacher. No, it's nonsensical. Acts is fairyland. It's the tooth fairy. You know, forget it. Santa Claus is gone. We don't believe in the tooth fairy. Why are we believing in corporations calling themselves government? Now, I do like Boris Johnson. You may not, but I think. I knew it upset you, and now you'll go and leave me. But at least he's trying to do something anyway. I think he is. I don't know.
Yes, he's part of the New World Order. We're all now moving towards the middle classes. Huge swathe of society within the next couple of years will be out of work or on benefits. Well, and that's when they've got you.
That's what the government wants. They want everybody slaves. And they're doing a pretty good job of it. And again, we're allowing it to happen. I remember in the 60s, all these people were coming in from other countries, and people asked about it. And says, well, these are jobs that the British people wouldn't do. And we believed it. And we still believe in it. So it's our fault for being bloody stupid. We've got to say no.
Took us to war. You see, the whole plan was to take us to war in World War II to appease the banksters. So it was a two-pronged attack. It was they would ensure that we lost a lot of people, and then we needed people to replace those people. So hence the immigration situation and bringing them all in.
Well, after the war, they had the Yatla Agreement, which is a town in Russia, where the President Merkel, Starling, and Churchill all met up, and they divided up the world, and then they created the League of Nations, which is now the United Nations. But Mr. Trump just said, God bless him, he says the United Nations may be going out the window, or words to that effect. So that will change. The United Nations is the biggest curse that we've got. They're our trustees.
Absolutely. They're the trustees then. Did you say they're the trustees?
Yeah, they're our trustees.
Of all our birth certificates.
Oh, no, the trustees of Australia. The birth certificates are all in Washington. There's a place in Boston. That's where they traded. A few people here have got, it's called a CTQ trust, or a CUSIP number or something, right? Some people have got hold of that and got their money. Now, I don't know how to do it. I know one person, I hate the term person, one man who's actually done it. And I know of another who said he has done it, but you can get it. But that money in there actually pays for your hospital bills and stuff. But of course, the hospital system has gone to rubbish as well. I don't think it's a good idea to crash it, but they've got to stop playing games with us, and it's all got to end, and it will end. It'll end naturally because people are realizing now that they've been had for so long, and they're having difficulties forming governments in most countries. At least the Labour Party got kicked to hell in England, which is really good because they have bad news, and the Greens, they're just the garbage collectors, right? Just they don't work. And the Democrats in America are making such fools of themselves. They're gone. They're history, and people have had enough. And we have to wake up and say enough is enough, and charge. You see, the thing is, they're getting away with it. We've got to lay charges to these people at the top. It's not much point walking into McDonald's and demanding a KFC remedy. or a menu and walking into a counter and complaining to the little girl behind the counter that I'm not happy, you go to the CEO of that organization, you charge him in his private capacity, right, for the hurt that he's called, the knowledge of claim of damage he's done to you. Take him to a court, and take him to a common law court if you have the opportunity. And that's what you have to do, because they're getting away with it. It's then, I'm an ex-cop. I love the police. I still do. But every police force have got rat bags, which the police themselves would love to see going. But when these people step out and create a crime against humanity and assault people, they have to be charged, and they're going to be charged in their private capacity. They mustn't get away with it, because it makes the rest of the decent cops look bad. So we must start holding these people accountable.
I think the only thing when they've had the children taken off them, it doesn't really matter to them about 5G. It doesn't matter. That is their central focus. You're waking up on a morning and your spare bedroom has no child in it. You go down to breakfast. There is, you might find a school bag still hanging there, but there is no child. And I don't think anybody, to me, this is one of the biggest crimes against mankind. But on that note, I will be sharing this video. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on the show. Barry. Why did I say
It's okay.
Brian?
I'll accept that for now. I'm Brian tonight.
But you could be somebody else tomorrow, couldn't you?
Well, I don't know where I am. It's only 20 to 1 in the morning. It's okay, love. I'm having a good time.
And remember, we've got the LGBT agenda that's been rolled out for 4-year-olds in September.
I've got a 95-year-old old mother-in-law, and when she heard about that, she said, "What nonsense!" And I mean, what a sensible statement. What nonsense! I mean, apparently we've now got 12 genders, and they're talking about bringing acts here to enforce it. It's all fiction. Forget about it. You don't have to accept it.
All right. Well, I'll meet you at the school gates then. All right. Thank you so much. Barry or Brian, or maybe you want to be Wanda. Maybe you want to be a girl tomorrow. You can choose whatever you want.
Oh, I want to go to bed now, but I think I'll go on my own if that's the case.
All right. You take care.
Good night,
Thanks so
Carol.
much, and I'll see you again soon.
Take care.
For now. Thanks to everybody at home for watching and listening. Please do share this video, because there is a way forward. It's just we need enough people to do it.
And goodbye, fiction.
Goodbye, fiction. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for...
Bye. Give my love to everybody in Australia, and I hope everything pans out okay. Yeah. We're under floods here.
I'll put this on my YouTube channel anyway, so that we can share it.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye, Caroline. Bye. Bye.